Hello Internet! Today I want to speak about power modes on C5 cluster. In the old days the cars were simpler. Maybe not that old days, more like these old days. The power lines were +12 after the ignition and +12 dashboard illumination. And if we get lucky, we got +12 accessory for radio or cigarette lighter. To reduce the number of wires that got increased, the PSA group went with +12 volts and 12 volts after BSC wake up. The ignition status and illumination status is now sent by CANBUS. So let's open the PCAN and see how it's organized on the C5 CANBUS network. As for now, the cluster has no power supply and the CANBUS is not active. This is what you get when the car is closed and the BSC is asleep. As soon as we unlock or open the door, the BSC wakes up and the CAN network communication begins. So the power management is divided to few frames. So the first frame is 036. So in this byte we have illumination status and backlight brightness. The next one is an ignition status, but it doesn't seem to work on the cluster. So maybe it's an old Peugeot leftover. And now over here, the first value is backlight mode. In normal mode, when low beams are off, we have here 0. So number 1 is unused. Number 2 is night mode, when you have your low beams on. And it's combined with this value, which sets up the illumination brightness from 1 to F. The F is maximum and the 1 is at the lowest minimum. And when you go to low beams, this value changes from F to the last set value by the user with the buttons. There is also a dark mode where unnecessary gauges turn off, and you get this mode when you send 3 here. What's interesting, the displays are not controlled by BSI, but the cluster itself decides which informations are important for the driver. We will test this later. Next important address is 0F6. Here we have work modes of the cluster and its behavior. When we send 80 over here after the power up, we will get the logo and the side screens are black, as we can see right now. So after the ignition we send 88. And the cluster should animate the backlight and turn on the side screens. And now we are in the day mode because we have 0 and the maximum brightness. And the buttons don't light up. But I'm not sure if in this cluster I have the buttons connected. But we will check this. And we can check it right away. We'll send here 2F and they light up, so it's okay. So let's get back to 0F. So let's get back to day mode. And now I'm sending the gearbox settings for a drive second gear that is 34 in 1 to 8 frame. And the 80 is needed for dark mode to work. It is sent all the time in the car. So during the ignition the cluster counts up till the 90, but we don't see any change on the display. Besides the fact, if we were sending cruise control data, we wouldn't get anything on the display. So let's send on 1A8, for example limiter on the pause, that is 80. We don't have anything on the left screen. we only have the temperature which is sent here. The value is 70 in hex. To go to after the ignition state, the cluster receives 8E value. As you can see, now the limiter is on the screen, which we were sending all the time. Now we can turn it off. So let's set 00. And we're back to the normal operation. So let's go to the night mode when we turn on the low beams. So we will send 2F. Or we can decrease the illumination value, for example, A. We will press send and the cluster dims, and also we have the button backlight. So to not get confused, I will add the side markers indicator. So let's go to 1 to 8 and just put 80 here. And now we know that we are at the night. So the only mode left is the dark mode. But before that, let's look at the gearbox indicator display. As we have now, we're sending drive 2 on 1 to 8 address. Cars without automatic transmission sends at the last byte 1 and the display clears. So when we go to the dark mode, of course we can increase the backlight to get a better view on the camera. Illumination went up and the screens are off. As you can see, the cluster decided what screens are off. So for example, if we now go to the menu or change the screen, the middle screen should light up. I will do this with the Finemagic I have prepared here. As you can see, the middle screen lights up and we can change the screens. And after a few seconds it should go off. To continue the dark mode. So now what the cluster thinks is important on the side screens. For example, one of the temperature is on the max level. So to simulate this, we will go here to the engine temperature and we'll increase 70 to F0. And after we send it, the screen lights up to indicate something is not right. So when we go back to the 70, the screen turns off. The similar thing is with the right screen. I don't think I have temperature here, but we can change the transmission display from manual to automatic. So we set up from manual to automatic. As you can see, the screen goes on, but the temperature gauge is off. And also on the left side, when we get the cruise control, for example, as a cruise control on 48, we have the cruise control information and additionally the pop-up for the activation of cruise control on the main screen. And after that we only have the cruise control screen. The situation is the same on the rest of the cruise control screens. For example, the pause mode, it's a 40 and it's the same, the pop-up with the pause screen. Additional for the cruise control, you can see all the modes on the cheat sheet. 80 for the paused limiter, 88 for the limiter on, A0 for the limiter on with blinking value, 40 for the cruise control paused, 48 for the cruise control on, 60 for the cruise control on with blinking value, and 00 for cruise control off on the screen. And now 1838 is a speed value multiplied by 100. So when we type it in the calculator, we get 1838, which is 6200. So that's correct, 62 kilometers per hour. If we want the blinking value, we can add 20. So we get 60. And we have a blinking value. To get the dashes, we need to put the FF value for the speed. And I'm curious if we can have the dashes on the cruise control without blinking. So let's go to the cruise control on with the dashes. Oh, and we have the result that will never come on the car. But on the desk everything is possible. So that's all for the dark mode. We can also check the trip computer if you have time. We need to go to the normal mode for 0F. And I can go to the trip computer screen. We can send on the 261 and 2A1 address the values for the trip computer. So let's focus on the 261, which is a Journey 2 screen. And now the average speed is the first byte. So it's only converted to DEC. F1 is 241 kilometers per hour. So the next one is the trip distance, which is 070F. And this is also converted from the hex. As you can see, it's 1807, which is 1807 kilometers. The next one is 00, I don't know. And the next one is a fuel consumption. And the conversion is simple, it's hex to DEC. We got the value 10, which is 16. And we put the decimal point in the middle, which gives us 1.6 liters per 100 kilometers. I think we can quickly look at the compass, which is a navigation screen, but I didn't investigate all the navigation messages from the radio. The ID is 169. The first byte is compass direction. The values are from 08 to 17 in hex, which gives us the full rotation of the needle on the compass. For example, 08 is south, and going around 0C is east, 10 is north, and 14 is west. Now it's getting interesting, because on this byte we have the height above sea level, but it's only 2 bytes, so the maximum value is 255. So to get the full range of heights, they are using additional bytes to set the range of the height. For example, 04 is from 25 meters up to 25 plus 255. So now we have 0 and we get 25 meters. So when we add 10, which is 0A in hex, we should get 35 meters. And that is what we get on the screen. So when we are above these 280 meters, we need to increase the range for 0.5, and now we get 291. It's an interesting solution, but if they're using 4 bytes, they could as well do the whole number. And for the negative values, they could use an offset as in engine temperature. So when we go to 00 and here 07, we should be high on the sea level. So it's similar in the other way. When we go to 02, we should be getting the negative value. Which in the temperature gauge is done by the offset. The rest is probably set if you have active navigation. I didn't bother with decoding all of that. And this is it for the basic stuff. If you have any questions, leave the comment, like, share, subscribe. And thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.